Here's why Larys Strong betrayed his own family at Harrenhal. He was the quiet man in the corner, the clubfoot with a crooked smile, and the man who would burn his own blood alive for power. Larys Strong is one of the most mysterious and dangerous figures in the history of House Targaryen civil war. Unlike the lords who rode dragons or swung swords in battle, Larys fought his war in whispers and shadows. And nowhere was his ruthlessness clearer than in the infamous night at Harrenhal, when the castle went up in flames, killing his father, Lord Lyonel Strong, and his brother, Sir Harwin Strong. The world called it an accident, but it wasn't. Larys orchestrated it. He murdered his own family, not in open combat, not in honorable duel, but in fire and silence. Why? Tonight, we'll uncover the twisted mind of Larys Strong and explain exactly why he betrayed his own blood, how his envy and ambition turned him into a master of treachery, why Harrenhal was the perfect stage for his betrayal, how Queen Alicent's rise gave him the opportunity he had been waiting for, and why, in killing his family, Larys secured not just power, but a kind of freedom. Because in the shadow of dragons and kings, it is not always the strongest who win. Sometimes, it's the man no one sees coming. This is the story of Larys Strong, the betrayal at Harrenhal, and the night the flames changed everything. The silent clubfoot. Larys Strong was born into one of the most powerful families in the realm. His father, Lord Lyonel Strong, was not only Lord of Harrenhal, but also served as hand of the king to Viserys I Targaryen. His older brother, Sir Harwin Strong, called Breakbones, was one of the strongest knights in the Seven Kingdoms and, according to rumor, the real father of Rhaenyra Targaryen's sons. By all rights, Larys should have lived a privileged life. But from the moment he was born, he was marked as different. He was born with a twisted foot that left him with a limp. In a world that worshipped strength, speed, and skill with a sword, Larys was a reminder of weakness. He could never ride in a battle like Harwin. He could never inspire fear with his fists or lead men with his presence. And so, while his brother became a knight and his father became hand of the king, Larys became invisible. But invisibility in the Red Keep can be a weapon. While others laughed at him or pitted him, Larys learned to listen. He lingered in corners. He memorized secrets. He discovered that knowledge was sharper than steel and that silence could be deadlier than any blade. And in that silence, resentment grew. He envied Harwin, beloved and celebrated. He chafed under his father's shadow, always overlooked, always underestimated. And he learned the most important lesson of his life. If he wanted power, he would not take it by force. He would take it by fire. And then the opportunity came. The spark at court. The seeds of betrayal were sown in King's Landing. As the rivalry between Rhaenyra Targaryen and Alicent Hightower deepened, the court fractured into two factions, the Blacks and the Greens. The Strongs were tied to Rhaenyra through Harwin, whose rumored affair with the princess was no secret. Lyonel Strong, though loyal to King Viserys, could not entirely escape the scandal surrounding his son. And in this chaos, Larys saw his chance. While his family aligned themselves, whether willingly or not, with Rhaenyra, Larys turned his attention to Alicent. He saw in her a kindred spirit, an outsider who felt trapped, powerless against forces larger than herself. Larys became her shadow. He whispered advice. He brought her secrets no one else dared to speak aloud. He told her things about Rhaenyra's household, about Harwin, about the whispers in the halls of Harrenhal. And Alicent listened. In Larys, she found a weapon, a man with no loyalty to anyone but himself, a man who could do the things she could not. And Larys? He found purpose. For the first time, he wasn't the overlooked son of Lord Lyonel Strong. He was the spider in the walls, the man who knew what others didn't, the man Alicent needed. But there was still one obstacle, his own blood. The night Harrenhal burned. Harrenhal was a cursed place long before Larys set it ablaze. Its blackened towers, melted by dragon fire during Aegon the Conqueror's campaign, were said to be haunted. But on that night, it became something else entirely, the stage for Larys Strong's betrayal. The story goes like this. Lord Lyonel Strong, racked with shame over Harwin's scandal with Rhaenyra, resigned as Hand of the King and returned to Harrenhal with Harwin in tow. They were meant to remain there in disgrace. But Larys saw a different ending. He gathered a band of condemned criminals, men with nothing to lose, and offered them a deal, their lives in exchange for one service. He had their tongues cut out, ensuring their silence forever, and sent them to Harrenhal. One night, fire erupted. The great hall of Harrenhal became an inferno, the flames devouring wood and stone alike. When it was over, Lyonel and Harwin were dead, their bodies charred beyond recognition. The realm mourned. They called it a tragic accident. But Alicent knew better, and so did Larys. He had removed his father. He had erased his brother. And with a single act of fire and ash, he had become the Lord of Harrenhal. Not only that, he had proven his loyalty to Queen Alicent in a way no one else ever could. By killing his own blood, Larys showed her that his allegiance was absolute. And in return, she gave him exactly what he wanted, a seat at her table. Why he did it? Larys Strong's betrayal wasn't madness. It was cold, calculated, and terrifyingly logical. Here's why he burned his own family. 1. Power. As long as Lyonel lived, Larys would remain in his father's shadow. As long as Harwin lived, he would never be the heir to Harrenhal. By killing them both, he claimed everything that had been denied him: land, title, and influence. Larys didn't just inherit Harrenhal. He inherited freedom from being overlooked. 2. Resentment. Years of envy had hardened into something darker. Larys was done being the quiet son who stood in the corner while Harwin's name was sung in taverns and Lyonel advised kings. By killing them, he erased the comparison. Now there was only one Strong left that mattered: him. 3. Allegiance to Alicent. In aligning himself with Alicent, Larys chose the winning side, or at least the side that could make him indispensable. By removing the Strongs who were tied to Rhaenyra, he cut his own family's link to the Blacks and bound himself to the Greens. To Alicent, it was horrifying, but also undeniable proof of loyalty. 4. His nature. Larys wasn't like other men. He didn't lust for glory. He didn't hunger for battle. He craved control. And in the shadows of the Red Keep, in the flickering firelight of Harrenhal, he found it. Larys Strong's betrayal at Harrenhal was more than just an act of murder. It was the birth of one of the most dangerous players in the Dance of the Dragons. By killing Lyonel and Harwin, he severed every tie that bound him to his past. He became a creature of pure ambition, a man who lived only for secrets, leverage, and quiet, devastating power. And perhaps that was always his plan, because in the end, Larys Strong proved one thing: dragons may rule the skies, but in the Game of Thrones, it is the men in the shadows who decide how the world burns. On that cursed night at Harrenhal, Larys Strong burned his own blood, and in those flames, he was reborn.